for YouTube. I'm gonna do a tutorial on air combo. It's gonna be a bit similar to game like Devil May Cry, and I'm gonna use the project file of devlog number 1. So if you wanna see a bit of the end result, you can go check that out. And before we start, you need to make sure that you have your animation choose carefully. For me, I'm gonna use Frank/Pack, and I'm gonna show you the animation that I'm gonna use, but make sure you've choose them and you've already import them in your project and you set up everything in place before we start. So for the animation I'm gonna use, I can show you over here. I've prepared and named them already. We'll need at least like 7 of them. So over here in the player file, I have the ground combo. So for each of them, basically any animation, what you're going to do is enable root motion over here and select every one of these and create an montage. Once you've done that, you can go in the montage and change the slot from default slot to upper body. And you can do this for your air combo also. And you're gonna need the launch attack that looks a bit like this, and also a takedown attack that can bring the enemy down. And yeah, what I've did is I've already put my effects and those, so you can do the same to prepare, make it a bit faster. And for the enemy, I'm gonna have the animation that plays once you've launched him in the air, and it's basically this this in place animation that he takes damage. And for the stunt, for the real damage, when you're on the ground and when you're in the air, I'm gonna play this again. It's the same animation but not in place, and I have enable root motion and I have create montage. And make sure you also select for the enemy the upper body slot. And for this takedown knockdown montage, I'm gonna show you later how I have created this, but it's basically just a compilation of a couple of different animation. So what you will want to have is I've created this third-person character template. It's the first thing I did. I choose this template, and what I did is I've come over here, and in the animation blueprint I've decided to change the locomotion, so the blend space, because it's only a 1D blend space. So again, I've used the Frank/Pack that comes with ground locomotion animation. So I've changed the run forward, run left, run right, and I also have run back. So what you're going to do is at the top you will have forward, left, right, and at each corner of this blend space you will have back, 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 back. And for the bottom, this will be the same as the top, forward, left, right. So you're gonna see we'll have the same animation over here, over here, over here, and at each corner. And you can go ahead and label the y-axis as speed over here from 0 to 300, and also the x-axis is going to be the direction from -180 to 180. So the only purpose of doing this is once we choose a target we want to lock on and bring in the air, is going to be way much smoother if we have this two-dimensional with four direction blend space. So what I did is I've come to the animation blueprint, and from the player you can change to a cast, or you can use the third-person template. It's going to be fine. Just get the actor rotation, and you've already calculate speed, but bring in calculate direction from the get velocity and plug it into a float that you're gonna name direction. So you have both of these, and from your ground locomotion you will take idle position, and if your speed is greater than 0.1 you're gonna plug in your blend space over here. And for the x-axis, again, direction and then the speed. for the Y. And if the speed is less or equal than 0.1, you're going back to your idle. So it's basically the only thing I've did to play the blend space. And make sure you also have over here a default slot, which is upper body, to play the anim montage of the combo. And once you've done this for the main player character, you gotta create a blueprint for your enemy, which is gonna be for now a dummy to test our combo. So what I've did is I've choose this guy, the UE mannequin, and I've changed the material to other color, so I can differentiate between both of those pawn. And what I've did to his animation blueprint, you're just gonna go in his ground locomotion and his state machine. And what I've did is I've disconnected everything and I've just plugged idle pause so we can test on him. And also don't forget, between this state machine you will want to have this default slot set to upper body again, so we can play the damage anim montage. So once you've done this, the last thing we're gonna need is to go to Epic Marketplace, and what I'm gonna do is use this target system component. It's gonna go way faster than building it from scratch, and we might rebuild it in other tutorial, but for now just use this, install it. Once you've done this, you got to go in the edit plugin, at least look for the target system, enable it. It's gonna ask you to restart the engine, so just do this and restart the project file. And now we can go in the third person blueprint and start doing the code for the system. So this is just the basic input with our movement. I didn't change this. I've just removed the useless stuff like VR stuff and touch. We're not gonna use this. And I've created this box over here for the target system. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to class setting and I'm gonna add an interface. So just look for the target system, targetable. I've already added this. And over here at add component, you can take the target system over here and you will have the option. So the only thing I would change maybe is the pitch distance offset over here. I'm gonna put 40, so it's gonna lock a bit smoother to the enemy. And you're gonna choose an input. So let's say key is gonna be E for now, because I didn't do any binding or anything, just to keep it simple. So from there you can drag your target actor, very easy, and then you come over here at the bottom and you're going to see on target lock, on target lock off, and on target lock on. So just create both of these, and from that target actor you're gonna bring over here and promote to variable. And this is gonna be the target that we're locked on, and it's also gonna be represent the target that we're gonna bring in the air. So this is gonna be a reference to his blueprint. And what you can do is create a variable is locked on, and once we've locked on, we're gonna set it to true. And if we're lock off, we're setting it to false. So we're gonna go and just test if this plugin works as intended. So as you can see, I'm going over here and I'm locked on this target, and I'm going over here and I'm locked on this target also, and it's gonna go smoothly because I'm playing my 2D blend space. Alright, so the next thing we're gonna do over here, I've prepared all those boxes that we're gonna need to fill in, and we're gonna start with the melee attack, so with the ground combo. For this input I'm gonna use the mouse left, and what I'm gonna do is right after is I'm gonna bring a branch, and from there you can promote to variable the boolean, and it's gonna be can melee. So you're gonna take this right after, and if it's true, you're gonna set it to false. So can melee will always just hit compile. Can melee will always be true. And you're also gonna create for this system. We're gonna use variable weapon index, and this is not gonna be which weapon we're using. Just for lack of better name, I've choose this this name. It's gonna be like the state index of what attack we're doing. So over here 0 is gonna be by default, is gonna be no attack. So I'm gonna come over here, and when we're melee attack, I'm gonna set this to 1 and make sure this is an integer. So after we've done this, what you could do is bring a branch over here and check if the character is falling. So that means the character is in air. So the character will be doing probably air combo. What I've did is I've took all of those nodes, I've right click, collapse to macro, and that gave me over here a small macro that I've plugged the true and the false in the output, and I can come here and use this every time I need to check this, because we're gonna use this a lot. So after we've done this, I'm gonna leave this over here, and I'm gonna go over here in our combo montage that we want to play, and I'm gonna create 2 custom events. So the first one is gonna be the ground combo montage, and you can copy paste. The next one is gonna be, as you would have guessed, the air combo montage. So after this, you're gonna bring a play anim montage from that, and for this is gonna be yourself. And from there, what you can do is promote to variable. This is gonna give us an anim montage, and we can change it to an array. So just change the variable type. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call this ground combo array. You're going to get a copy, plug it in over here, and this you can promote to variable. It's gonna be an integer, and you can call it attack count. So from there, you're gonna take a branch, and you're gonna grab the array, and we're going to check if the length of the array. So just bring the length, and you're going to minus 1 the length, and you're going to bring the attack count, and you're gonna check if it's greater or equal than this. You can plug it in the branch, and from the true pin over here, you're gonna bring the attack count and set it back to 0, and from the false over here, you're going to get the attack count and increment it. So once you've done this, what you can do is take this logic and copy paste it to the air combo, and the only thing we're gonna change is the array over here. So just again, promote to variable, compile. I'm gonna plug the array over here also, and this is gonna be our air combo array. And if you hit compile again, we can come to both of these array, and we can plus. So for the ground combo, I had 3 anim montage that I've like to play over here, and for the air combo, I have 2 of those, so I'm gonna plus 2 times. And since I've already selected those, I'm gonna copy paste from there the name, and I'm just gonna add them to the array. Alright, so once you've done this, we're going to go back to our input over here. And we're going to finish this, so we're going to create 2 more custom events. This is gonna be save melee. This is gonna be reset melee. For this, you can copy paste your can melee. And both of these are going to reset back to true. And for the reset melee, you're going to take the attack count and set it back to 0. And over here, when we check if the player is in air or is not, if the player is not in air, basically we're just gonna play the ground combo montage. But if the player is in air, what we're going to do to keep the player in air is we're going to do a line trace for object, and we're basically gonna line trace to the ground. So what you can do is get the actor location, and from there you're going to break the vector, and you can make vector also right after, and this is gonna be the endpoint and the start point. So you can plug both of these in there, and for the z-axis what we can do is minus, so it's gonna line trace beneath the character. So for now what we're going to do is 1200, so it's gonna be fine. And for the object type, I'm gonna make the array, and I'm gonna choose both world static and world dynamic. We're going to trace this line, so just make sure I'm going to keep it persistent. From there you can Alt B, bring out a branch if we're hitting something. So we're gonna bring a launch character. You can override both of these, and from the Z you can give him a velocity of about 300 unit. And if this is false, we're going to play the air combo. And over here, right after we've launched a character, you can play the air combo, and this is gonna make sure that the characters stay in air. So once we've finished this blueprint, we basically finished the ground combo part, but we still need to go into the anim montage and place our anim notify to actually make the combo works. So what I've did is I've come over here in new notify, and I've created save melee, reset melee, and a do damage notify. So once you've done this, just select the notify, and let's say from this part of the combo over here, we're gonna do our do damage, maybe right at the right spot, and right after we're gonna give a window to the player to chain the combo and to go to the next part. So you're gonna put your save and your reset, and you're going to do this for every combo part that you want to use. So for the launch attack, the only thing I'm gonna add over here is the notify do damage. And for the takedown, what I've done is also add the do damage. But we're gonna do another notify, is gonna be a reset takedown. So just put it at the end over here. Once you've done this, you will need to go to the animation blueprint, and right after your update animation, you can go down and choose your anim notify. So for now, we're just going to set up the save, let's say reset melee and save melee. And from there, what you can do is bring this cast. Copy paste for both of these. And from there, you're going to call reset melee. And from there, you can call save melee. And just place them over here. Hit compile, and now we can go ahead and test this out. So right now we're just gonna have our ground combo playing, and we can lock onto the enemy, but we're not gonna have any interaction for now. So we're gonna go and continue this. We're going to start with the DoDamage event over here, so we can actually damage the enemy and start to test the combo part. So for this, you're gonna do another custom event that you're going to call DoDamage, and from there you can bring the sphere actor overlap. And what we're going to do for this, we're going to do to view part, and we're gonna make an arrow, and we can call this collision arrow. This arrow, we can put it at about 120, let's say 120, 130, and a bit higher. You're gonna bring that collision arrow, and you're going to get this world location. Plug it into sphere pause over here. We're going to choose a radius of 70 for the base attack, the melee attack. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to promote to variable and set this to damage radius. And what I can do from there is I can draw a debug sphere. And for the object type is going to be only the pound, and also the actor to ignore. We're going to make array, and we can choose self, so we're going to ignore ourselves. And right after this, we're going to do a branch, and we're going to do for each loop for each of those enemy. And you're going to check the actor as tag of basically enemy, and make sure you put in the exact same thing that you're going to put in the enemy blueprint. After this, we can branch again, and we're going to apply the damage, and the damage actor is going to be the enemy we're looping. The base damage I can promote to variable and call this attack damage, and for now I'm just going to put 0.01. The event instigator is going to be get the controller, and the damage causer you can put self. And for the debug sphere over here, I'm going to choose another color so we can actually see it with duration of maybe 3 seconds, and thickness I'm going to put 10, and the radius I'm going to plug this over here. And once you finish this custom event, Just make sure you go to your enemy blueprint, and from the over here, the self, you want to look for tag, and you want to make sure you do plus, and over here you can actually add the tag enemy, and this is what you're using right there. Just make sure you have the same. I think we're gonna start in the enemy blueprint to do the event so we can get damage. So I'm gonna go to event begin. So I'm gonna call event begin. I'm going to cast to the third person character, and you can get player and from there you can promote to variable, and this is going to be the player reference. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring AnyDamage, and from there we can create a variable health. We're going to hit compile and set it to 1. Make sure it's to set it to 1. You're going to get this variable, and what we're going to do is minus the damage, and right after you can set it. So plug that in, and the only thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to print the health of the enemy, and right after I'm going to introduce hit counter, and this one can be integer. So you're going to bring this hit counter, you're going to get, and we can increment, and right after just set it. So once we've did this, we actually gonna need to return to the third person animation blueprint, and over here we can choose the anim notify for DoDamage, and basically copy paste again this cast and just call in the DoDamage. And what I'm going to show you over here is I'm gonna set the thickness to 1, and I'm going to plug this in and show you the debug sphere that the enemy gets to get the damage. So over here you can see that the enemy is perfectly in the sphere, so he's getting the damage. So I'm gonna unplug this, can hit compile, and now we can actually go and start to do our launch attack. So for this attack I'm gonna choose the input right mouse, and right after I'm gonna bring a branch, and you can promote to variable this boolean, and basically it's gonna be can launch. So hit compile, can launch is always gonna be true, and right after we're gonna set it to false, and we're also gonna create another variable, and we can call it air combat, and this one is gonna be set to true, and I'm gonna bring the damage radius over here, and I'm gonna set it to 175, and also I'm gonna bring the weapon index. So for the launch attack we're gonna be at index number 2, and after this we can play the anim montage. So I'm going to go and select my montage for my launch attack, just click on it, and I'm gonna click this arrow. It's gonna bring this montage in, and what you want to do is launch the character. For now we're going to override both of these, and we're going to give about 1200 unit in the air. So right after, what you can do is go and cast to the enemy blueprint, And the object over here is gonna get our lock target. And from there, the enemy is also gonna be launched in the air, just a bit higher than the actual player. So let's say 1300 unit. And from there, what you're going to do is play an montage also. So I'm just gonna put a reroute node right there and right there. And for this, I'm going to choose my launch attack anim for the enemy. And I'm going to plug it in over here. After this, I'm just going to make sure that the player character can actually attack again in the air. So I'm gonna set can melee to true. And I'm gonna bring this collision arrow, relative location, and I'm actually gonna bring this at 300. The last thing we need to do is from that target lock on, you're going to get the capsule component at the end over here, and you're going to set relative location, and this is going to override the location of the player character to make sure he's aligned with the launch attack. So what I'm actually going to do for the location is I'm going to go to viewport, I'm going to create a scene component, and this I can call it scene air attack, and I'm just going to put it in front of the player about 120 unit in the X direction. I'm going to go back to my event graph, and I'm going to get this scene air attack and get world location, and it's going to place the enemy right in front of us. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to reset this attack so we can perform this once the character is going back to the ground again. So right here I have my jump that I've already set up, but the only thing that's really important is the node over here, which is event on landed. So you can see over here I've just said I've just called this box on landed. I'm gonna reset some basic stuff. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drag this pin, is I'm gonna call can melee, and I'm gonna set this one back to true. I'm gonna take can launch, set this one back to true, and the air combat over here is gonna be set back to false. And just for me, what I've done is I've took this pin and I've plugged it into my reset. But what you can do if you don't have your jump set up already, you just gonna use the event on landed. So now I'm gonna do a quick test. So over here I already have my ground attack, but if I do my launch attack, I get launch in the air, and I can do again my melee, and it's gonna do the line tracing for us. And you can see hopefully we get a couple of these line trace at the same 8. So our character can be in the air and perform his combo. And if I go and lock in to this guy, I can go here and bring him to the air. But you're gonna see it's gonna be buggy for now because we need to go back in the blueprint of the enemy and fix a couple of things before this is gonna work properly. So you can go back to the enemy blueprint, and you can make a custom event for a basic damage that the enemy is gonna receive. And from there, what I usually do is I'm playing a camera shake. And what you need to do is get the player reference, get the actor location. It's gonna be the epicenter, and the inner radius can be 1000. And for the shake, you will need to create a camera shake, but you can look for other tutorial online. It's very simple. Just create a camera shake and select it over here. And right after, I'm gonna bring my isInAir macro. If you didn't create it, you can create it the same way as the third-person character has. And from there, we're gonna play an montage. You can copy paste this one 3 times. And what I'm gonna do after this is I'm gonna call a branch, and I'm gonna get the hit counter over here, and I'm gonna say if it's greater or equal than a certain integer, we're gonna play a knockdown animation. So over here, I'm just gonna promote this to variable, and I'm gonna call this hit limit. So let's say the hit limit is 5 for now, so set it to 5. The hit counter is set to 0, and for each of these damage, I'm gonna go to the stunt level over here, and what I've done is I've took this animation, which is the basic damage animation, and I'm gonna plug it in there if it's less in the false. So I'm gonna get this animation, and what I've done is I've created this compilation of a couple of animation, which is gonna look like this. The character is gonna be knocked down for a certain time, and then it's gonna get up again. So what I've done is I've took this animation, and right at the end over here, I've removed frame 0 to 51. And this is gonna create for us another animation that I've renamed loop, and it's gonna look like this. So I've enabled root motion for both of these, the knockdown. And what you can do is come here, create an anim montage, and you're going to get the loop and drag and drop as many as you want, and the character is gonna stay longer on the ground. And I've also get this get up animation. For this I didn't enable root motion because he's gonna get up at the same place that he's been knocked down. So you can take this one and also drag and drop right at the end. Just make sure that you have upper body selected for this montage. And we're going to go back to the enemy blueprint, and this is the montage we're going to play over here. So select it for if the enemy is in air, or select it if the counter is bigger and the enemy is on the ground. So if the enemy is on the ground and you've reached the hit limit, what you can do is just delay for the duration of the animation. And right after, we're going to take the hit counter and set it back to 0. So now we can actually come back to our AnyDamage and plug in our basic damage. To do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the player reference and the weapon index, depending how we're attacking the enemy. I'm going to get this, and I'm going to switch over here, switch on integer. And since we've had, for now we've had 3 integer, I'm going to add 3 pin to this. I'm going to bring this back a little bit. And I'm just going to add the comment to make clear what each of these integer represent. So for the number 1 over here, we add our melee. And for the 2 over here, we add our launch attack. So for the number 1 over here, you can bring is an air node. And if the enemy is not in air, we're just going to play our basic damage. And if the enemy is actually in air, we're gonna play our basic damage. We're gonna get again reference to the player. I'm gonna get the scene air. Scene air. and the world location, and I'm just gonna override the position of the enemy again to make him sure he's in front of us. So I'm gonna set relative location of the capsule component over here. Plug this in the new location. And for the launch attack, now we're just gonna play basic damage. But the problem now is this is not gonna keep the enemy in air. We'll need to do the same line tracing that we did for the player. So I'm gonna go here and do a custom event. And this is gonna be like a AirBuffer that's gonna keep the enemy in air. Alright, so from there you're going to do the same thing we did for the third person character, which is line tracing for object. And if we hit something, what we're gonna do is we're gonna launch the character again. So we can get the launch character over here. And for this one, we're just gonna split structure pin. I'm gonna override both of these. Velocity. I can promote to variable, and I'm gonna call this one the AirBuff, and I'm gonna set this one to 300. And for the line trace, what we're going to do is we're gonna make the array. You can plus. There's gonna be world static and world dynamic, just like this. The actor to ignore. We can also make array and ignore ourselves. And over here you can get the actor location, and we're going to break vector. Over here just make vector. You can plug the Y, is gonna be directly plugged in, and over here we're gonna minus 1200 unit. Just plug that in. Bring it to the end, and the start is gonna be over here, the actor location. Alright, so we're gonna hit compile. We're going to go back at our launch attack over here. If he's getting damage from the launch attack, we're going to do basic damage, and after this we're going to call the AirBuffer again. And right before, what I'm going to do is set the AirBuff to a float that is a bit bigger. So for this I'm going to put 400, and I'm going to copy paste at the end and add a delay for about 0.2 seconds, and the AirBuffer can go back to this original value of 300. And the same thing for the melee attack over here. Between this and the basic damage, we can bring in the AirBuffer, so that's gonna keep the enemy in air for us. And after we done this, we can actually do a quick test. So I'm gonna go to the enemy, I'm gonna lock on him, I'm gonna bring it in the air, and if I'm doing my melee attack, you will see the enemy will stay in air. I'm going to go to this one now. Alright, so just remember that if you want to get the combo, the height of the combo a bit higher, you can change those values over here. For right now, we just put about 1000 unit, but this is just for testing. But you can play with this and change the height of the combo if you want to do this in your game. Alright, so the last bit of mechanic that we're going to do is the takedown attack. So I'm going to take a key, let's say Q. Perfect. And I'm going to go with a branch and promote to variable. And this is going to be can takedown. I'm going to hit compile. Takedown is always true. But if we click on it, we're gonna set it to false, and right after this I'm gonna do a custom event, and this one is gonna be reset takedown. So we're gonna take this boolean and we can set it back to true, What I'm gonna do after is I'm gonna increase the damage radius. I'm gonna increase it up to 300, and I'm gonna take my weapon index, and I'm gonna set this one to 3. After this, I can bring my macro of is in there, and what I'm gonna do over here is I'm gonna launch character about 300 unit, and I'm gonna override both of these. So right after, I'm gonna play an anime montage, and for this anime montage I'm gonna go and get the takedown montage. Over here I've already put my DoDamage and my reset takedown, so I'm gonna get this montage, and with the arrow I'm gonna put the reference over here. So after this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold D and I'm gonna put a delay, and let's say 0.5, and again I'm gonna launch the character, but this time I'm gonna put the velocity downward. So I'm gonna put minus 10,000, and from there I can take down and set it back to true. And the last thing we need to do is we need to go back to our animation blueprint and actually give a reference to the anim notify. So I'm gonna copy this cast, reset takedown, and over here again reset takedown. And after this I can go to the enemy blueprint, and over here I'm gonna add a pin, and if we already have 1 and 2, but now we can have 3, which will be the takedown. And from this pin what I'm gonna do is a basic damage, and then I'm gonna wait about 0.2 seconds, and I'm gonna do a launch character, and for about the same velocity of minus 10,000, and I'm gonna override, and now I can do a quick test. So right now I won't be able to do the takedown attack, but if I actually let's say I'm start attacking a pound and I get to a point that I jump in there, and then I can do takedown attack again, and the same thing will happen if I launch the player. I'm starting to do my melee attack, and then I'm taking down a player again. So I can go to this guy and we will have the same behavior. I can launch the character and I'm taking it down. So of course you can play with those animation. You would want to make them look better, because right now I've really took like the simplest animation I could find that demonstrate the concept, but it's still very fun to play, and there's a lot of things you can play around and customize. Yeah.